So you can see that the actual cave itself, the actual stalactites, stalagmites are just mind-blowing in themselves. And you cannot help but imagine that people, early peoples who were down in these caves, imagine them to be kind of life forces, ancestors themselves. Forget about the art and images that, that were placed on them. Um, and my friends and I, who went into these caves, we're all scientists and, know how we're supposed to think about this art. But afterwards, we just, you know, we were kind of, I can't even explain the kinds of conversations we had. It was just a totally transformative experience for all of us. And we did this over about a week or two. We went into different caves, and it's nothing like reading them in the books, right? You look in a book and you see pictures of a bowl or something. It's like, oh, that's pretty, that's nice, it's so realistic. It's nothing like being in these caves. The total, you know, embodied experience.
As we've moved away from that, um, I guess that local foods model, now it's like the concept of, what do you need the land for? That's a big question, you know, and it's like, if you need it for farming, then that farming or that ranching should be done by the tribe as a kind of, and I know this can be taken as a negative word, but the tribe, and this is true with most tribes. I talked to Dan Cornelius, who's with the Intertribal Ag Council, and we were talking about this. And he's like, well, yeah, a lot of tribes tend to manage their lands. They prefer to manage their lands as a monopoly. And when we go back to the Dawes Act, we understand why, right? Because there is a danger in those individual allotments. We know how devastating that was.
The concept itself is not an ages old concept of land acknowledgement in that way. Of course, tribes and communities have been acknowledging the land forever. But in terms of having sort of a written document that starts a meeting or a conference, I think that idea is somewhat new. And I personally really wrestle with it, to be honest. I think that what we always try to communicate from our Native community here at the University of Iowa and the Native American Council is that a land acknowledgement is good, and it's a step in a process. It's part of a larger puzzle. And so the hope and the suggestion is that a land acknowledgement not be the only way that you're engaging with issues of Native sovereignty and Indigenous rights. The hope is that you're exploring these issues in a lot of different ways. My fear is that the land acknowledgement becomes an end point rather than an opening to a conversation. While we're here, let's talk about how we get more Native students to the university, right? Let's talk about all of these other issues that every day we're talking about in our small Native community, that we would hope we could sort of increase the amount of allies for.
Here at the University of Iowa, there's a survey and it asks students, are you cutting or skipping meals because you don't have enough money or resources for food? And the most recent data I've seen is from 2018, and 16% of our undergraduates, 1 in 6 respondents, reported that they're often skipping or cutting meals because they don't have enough financial resources. You can imagine, like Sarah said, if somebody's paying maybe half of their income towards housing, and when you add in food and transportation, utilities, other supplies, that doesn't leave a lot of room in your budget for college tuition.
The way in which COVID has really exposed existing inequities and the degree to which, and I don't think it's just Iowa. I know it's not. It's not just Iowa City. I mean, it's nationally. The degree to which the school system is the safety net for so many things that have nothing to do with education. They do go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It has to do with food security. It has to do with childcare. It has to do with safety. It has to do with safe spaces. It has to do with actually, one of the things that we learned very, very quickly, that this is not a nice to have, it's a must have in this day and age, is broadband and internet connectivity. And that was a huge barrier. And the school district tried to solve for it, but that's not their job, right? I mean, they did the Chromebooks and they put Wi-Fi hotspots out there. But as Open Heartland can attest, broadband, you can't get the packages that are strong enough in certain parts of the city in order to be able to have a family, more than one person online without crashing it or freezing, as we all know, for Zoom freezing.